Hello everyone, welcome to our Supernatural Kids Church service online. I'm so happy to have you here because we have a very special and important class for you today. Today our class is about instruments of prayer. We're going to start by talking about the instruments that are up in heaven where God lives. As you can see, on his throne, God has a lot of angels all around him playing an instrument called the harp. The harp makes a really beautiful and delicate sound. And they're playing this instrument day and night, and they're singing to him and telling him how much they love him and how wonderful he is. Now, today we're going to look at many instruments that make a lot of different sounds. And each of these instruments show how different things about how God is. Now, the first instruments that we're going to look at are instruments that have strings, like the harp, like the guitar. Right? If you've seen a guitar before, it has strings and it makes sounds. And another instrument that's like this is the violin. Now, the violin makes beautiful sounds with its strings. All of these sounds show how beautiful God is, how much he loves us, and they show his gentleness, how wonderful he is to us. The second instrument we're going to talk about is the trumpet. If you've ever seen a movie where a king comes in and they play a loud sound of a trumpet announcing that he's here, we're going to hear it now. Look. Did you guys hear that? Wow! When a king comes in, a trumpet plays. And the trumpet shows us the majesty of God. Because remember that God is a king. God is the king of all kings. And when we play the trumpet, when we hear a trumpet sound, we remember, wow, God is a king that is great and glorious. The third instrument we're going to be talking about is the drums. If you've ever heard a drum play, they're always really loud. They're always really loud. And they show power. They show how powerful God is. When we hear the drums, we remember God's power. Every single instrument that we saw here today was created for the glory of God. God created all of the instruments because he loves music and he loves when people play instruments and worship him. There are a lot of stories in the Bible where people and kings are playing these instruments to worship God and to show his glory. Today we're going to see a very important story in the Bible about King David. Do you remember the story of David and Goliath? Well, today we're going to see that in our Bibles. So when we open up our Bibles, what's in here? A harp. This harp was used by King David, even before he was a king. When he was a young boy, he learned to play the harp, this beautiful instrument, and it helped him throughout his life in a lot of different things. For example, after he fought Goliath, David was called in by King Saul. And King Saul was a man that had a lot of fear, and he had a lot of bad thoughts by the devil. The enemy put a lot of bad feelings in his heart. But when David played the harp for him, this beautiful sound of the harp, it helped him be free of all these evil thoughts, of these bad feelings that he had, and he was just freed. The sound of the harp freed King Saul. What does this tell us? It tells us that every instrument has a purpose that makes us free. If we're ever feeling sad, if we're ever feeling mad, maybe we're not feeling very good that day. When we listen to worship music, where there's a lot of different instruments, we feel better. We start to be filled with peace. Now I have a question. Can you play a musical instrument? If you said no, well, I have some very good news for you. Because one of the most important instruments that we can play, that we can use, is our voice. We can use our voice. Let's say maybe you're in another room, you're in your room and your mom is in the kitchen. And she calls you, hey, come here. You know who it is, right? It's your mom. In this same way, we can use our voices to sing to God and He knows who we are. He knows why we're singing to Him. He knows what is in our hearts. So we can use our voices to sing very loud or to sing very soft. So no matter what instrument you're using, maybe it's a physical instrument, maybe it's the drums, the violin, the piano, or your voice. All of these instruments were created to worship God and to show His glory. God gave us this very important instrument so that we could worship Him, so that we could show Him how much we love Him. And remember, when we worship Him, we have to do it with all of our hearts. Now, Mom and Dad, I have a very special activity that you can do right there at home with things that you have lying around. We're gonna make our very own instruments. First, you're gonna find a little ball, any ball that you have around. Maybe you can get one from the dollar store, something cheap. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna make a little hole in it. Then, you're gonna fill this ball, maybe with some beans, it could be with some beads, maybe you can fill it with some rice, anything that you have lying around at home. We're gonna fill this ball until it's all full. And once it's all full, we're gonna get a little tube or a little stick that we have lying around. We're gonna put the stick inside the ball. And then we have a maraca. Yay! So we can use this instrument to worship God, to praise God, to dance for Him, and to tell Him how much we love Him. Thank you so much for connecting with us today. I hope you had a fun time. I really want to see what you do with your projects at home, so send us pictures, leave a comment, leave a like, and don't forget to share. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!